to our rules for our first round topic. It's quite simple, ladies and gentlemen. A great take gives you 200 points. A good take gives you 100 points. An okay take gives you 50 points. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed with 0 points. The most watched college basketball game in the history of ESPN on the women's side was played last night with the Iowa Hawkeyes knocking off LSU, the defending champion LSU Tigers, in a rematch 94-87, and won Caitlin Clark. All she did, as being the superstar of college basketball right now, is drop 41 points, dish 12 dimes, and get 7 rebounds in this basketball game. She controlled every aspect of it and was simply fantastic. This game, by the way, was watched by 12.3 million people, again, making it the most watched women's college basketball game of all time. I will start with you, Barry Grant Jr. We talked about on the 8 o'clock spot a few weeks ago, like where does she rank and all this. More specifically, though, because there's been a lot of debate about this, does she need a title? But what would a title mean for Caitlin Clark if she were to go all the way with Iowa?
I think it's an icing on the cake of a, spectacular college career. I think that a title goes a long way with moving her into, I guess, the top 2 of all time in regards to women's basketball players of all time. You can be able to say that. My biggest thing was there's been so many great college players before her on both sides that to say that she's, in the top 10 is a stretch, but you can say that she's definitely in the top 3 in regards to women all time. So yeah, I mean, all she's doing right now is kind of stamping her legacy further as one of the best women's college basketball players that ever walked the planet. So, shouts to her. I'm looking forward to seeing her, do what she does in the national title game. But that game ain't gonna be no slouch game, I'll tell you right now. So we're gonna see how that goes.
Yeah, that back and forth between her and Paige Beckers is going to be something to see. Obviously, with UConn winning yesterday against USC to advance to the Final Four, which will be playing on Friday. And you mentioned kind of her stepping up to the moment. I saw a stat saying that in all games past the Sweet 16 that she has played, she averages like 38 a game on 50, 40, 90 shooting. Just insane numbers. And we know the range that she showed last night, just hitting unbelievable shots across the board. So Barry Grant Jr., you will start tonight in this 8 o'clock spot with a good take, get you to 100 points here to start the night. A good take for Barry Grant Jr. Moving to Keith Nandon right now, your very first take in the 8 o'clock spot. Look, curious what you have to say here. What does the title mean for Clark if she wins the national championship this week?
Well, I just want to start with saying that was history for me in a sense that was the first time I ever watched a women's college basketball game from beginning to end. And it had nothing to do with the fact that I may or may not have wagered on the game. But having said that, she is, a championship, she's the GOAT. I mean, Barry can say what he wants. I mean, a championship to me she's clear cut the GOAT. So for me, she is her. She is her. I don't know, top 3. I don't know who are the 2 players that are better than her. I can't think of a women's player better. And there's an argument for her to be maybe, forget about women, maybe one of the best college athletes ever, and a national title. She's goated, in my opinion.
Cheryl Miller might be better. I'm just saying.
Cheryl Miller was different. There's no question about that. Yeah, and listen, my go as currently see here today, all time, whether it's a college game, whether it's all time WNBA, I think Maya Moore is the greatest female player I've ever seen in my life. I think this may be a hot take. I honest to God think she could have held her own in the NBA.
She was a beast. She was a beast.
Yeah.
And again, she retired from the game, for much greater cause. But had she continued, like she would have won even more championships, even more MVPs. But nonetheless, what you said about Caitlin Clark is true. Like you sort of talked about how you watch the game from start to finish. That's because she's drawn in so many more people to women's college basketball, as has Angel Reese, as has Paige Beckers, Juju Watkins. And so when you consider what she's done in that regard, kind of spearheading that, it certainly means a lot for the women's game and has caused it to grow to the level that it has. Keith, then your first take in the 8 o'clock spot is a good one to get you to 100 points to tie Barry Grant Jr. in terms of what a title would mean for Caitlin Clark. Finally to you, John. What would a title mean for Caitlin Clark if she wins it in the upcoming week?
Man, a title for her, well, I would agree with him. Will make her the greatest of all time because you got to think, she's not at a big school, man. She's at Iowa. Like, Iowa known for football, and they don't even score a lot of points, you know what I mean? And they go for corn. But, yeah, she'll definitely be the greatest of all time, especially through this. She's even got the best team, bro. Like, all these people will transform in the portals to go to LSU. They beat LSU from last year's national championship, you know. This year she'll have to go through one of the top programs of all time, which is UConn in that dominating force. So if she was to beat them and then beat the other upcoming, the Alabama basically of college football, of college women's basketball now, that the new up and coming in South Carolina, come on, man. She'll definitely be the GOAT. She's doing all these accolades, man. Kids want to be here, bro. Like, she's doing everything right, man, and she's breaking records. So with all that being said, man, if she gets this national championship and going through all the obstacles that she went through as far as competition and everything and not being at a big school, that'll definitely put her as #1 college female athlete of all time.
Yeah, and I'm glad you brought up sort of the run and the level of difficulty, right? You take down LSU, who I think we all agree here has a better basketball team all the way around than Iowa. Right. Obviously, we saw what they were able to get the W last year. I think I saw like Caitlin Clark I don't think she has any teammates that are projected to go the WNBA or have a successful WNBA career. A lot of the other greats, you think UConn, Tennessee, some of those women were teammates, and so being able to kind of work together, win championships, and I said on my show Carving It Up yesterday that have you ever in your life had a conversation outside of the state of Iowa for more than a minute or 2 minutes about women's college basketball in Iowa pre-Caitlin Clark, and that's what she's done. And so, yeah, if she were to go on this run, by the way, remember, South Carolina's had one loss in the last 2 or 3 years. It came at the hands of Caitlin Clark and Iowa in last year's Final Four. So if there's anyone who could take them down, it would certainly historically appear to be Caitlin and the Hawkeyes. I'm going to give you a great take, John, just because of what you're talking about in terms of the run, in terms of the college basketball blue bloods like UConn, who's an excellent defensive team, led by Paige Beckers. Obviously, Gino Auriemma is the coach. This would be an incredible run, and if she does it, it's going to be you cannot, and I think you can make this case now. I don't think you can make a case for anybody as the GOAT if Caitlin Clark is not at least involved in the conversation. Certainly if she wins a national championship, but I would even argue now just what she's done individually and for the sport as a whole. Good stuff, gentlemen. We will move on to our second round, to the men's side of the college tournament.